Jules is here. I thought I'd try something a little bit different instead of showing my face. I would do a video of my computer screen and the different articles I was looking at, more so, website. Again, the test I'm going to be looking at for this week is the Eiken test, which is very popular in Japan, and I've already covered in my previous posts. So looking here, I'll be looking at content validity, criterion validity, and face validity. So these 3 points found in our textbook, in Hugh's textbook. So for content validity, yes, it does have it. It tests all of the skills in the English language, speaking, writing, listening, and reading. However, it is more limited when it comes to grammar and speaking, and actually speaking is only a must at the higher levels. The lower levels won't even have to do it, and even in the higher levels, as I've already mentioned in my previous posts, it's very, very short compared to the whole entire test. So there is content validity, however, it is somewhat limited on, especially I would say for speaking. So now continuing with content validity, they actually have in this paragraph here, so for those of you who like to read it, I'm not going to read the whole thing because it would take too much time, but they talk about the concept of content validity right here. Actually, they have a lot of information on validity and research with the Eiken test. So here it's, if I look here, they actually said that they put a lot of focus to ensure content relevance. So the Eiken Foundation placed most of its validation resources into the content validation area, investing in an extensive network of expert committees and outside reviewers made up of testing experts and practicing teachers to constantly review and revise test materials during all stages of item and test development. Now, another thing that they also mention about the concept of content validity, where they go into having their test materials public, releasing the materials publicly. So therefore, students who are going to take the test can see what the content is on the test, and they could study and prepare for it, which they say is a positive washback, which we were talking about last week. So this is interesting. So yes, it has a vocabulary section, and it does test vocabulary. It does direct testing on that. It has the reading comprehension section, the grammar section, the listening section, and the speaking section, which are all done through direct testing. So that's pretty much for content validity. I think that yes, it does have that, although it is lacking in speaking in some areas, grammar and speaking. The next part is criterion validity, and then there's the one that I'm looking at is concurrent. And actually, there's a study conducted under the direction of Dr. James Dean Brown at the University of Hawaii, and he was looking at TOEFL, which is interesting, and he actually has an article here, I'll bring it up here, which, looking at the very beginning, looking at the abstract, it shows right here that there's actually and I went through the article looking at the coefficients that there is criterion validity present that was found in this study, and this study was looking at the test in its entirety previous studies were looking at sub-tests or subsections of the Eiken test, comparing it to subsections of the TOEFL test. And this one was set out to do a test in its whole entirety, and it found that there was evidence of criterion-related validity. So that does, however, even though that they did find this in numerous studies, that's one study on this website, they do mention that, of course, you need to be a little bit wary and take things with a little bit of grain of salt, that Eiken and the TOEFL test, for example, could be are two different tests. So they're not going to be exactly alike. Hughes in our textbook actually mentioned that, and actually our starter for week 3 discussion mentions that Edward mentions that very, very clearly. Like there's other factors that go into making a test that sometimes criterion validity with coefficients does not measure. So going to, let's see here, the next one would be, so yes, it does have criterion validity, although they do warn against it. Where was it? Here we are. So if I look here on this page here, it does actually show the Eiken grades, and this is only for, it does have criterion validity, but only for, studies have only looked at pre-2 and pre-2, 2, and pre-1 and 1. They haven't looked at the lower levels. So, and they do make comparisons looking at the CEFR, TEAP, and the TOEFL. And they do give you an approximate of what your score, if you passed Eiken grade 1, what it would be like on TOEFL. So yes, it does have it, although it's limited. It's not for all levels, and they on the website they do say, well, this is an approximation, so it's not exact. So the next thing is face validity, and this test definitely has that, definitely. If I go back to this page here, Eiken is a very, very popular test. It's actually, like if I look here in Japan where I am living, it's actually looked at for admissions or course credit for over 2,500 high schools, colleges, and universities. They do it by all prefectures in Japan. And it's also used with employers and agencies nationwide as evidence of communicative English ability for the workplace. And this is kind of funny because, again, the test's content validity on speaking is fairly low. There's not a lot of speaking, although it does say that communicative English ability for the workplace. And I think that's what a lot of Japanese struggle with, is communication, speaking. It's also seen here internationally. So, for example, 400 colleges, universities in the United States, Australia, and Canada, and at the technical further education institutes in Australia, etc., etc. So it definitely has that. It's definitely, despite the fact that it is weak in, I believe, in content validity regarding speaking especially, it does have very strong face validity in Japan, with, I would say, hundreds, if not thousands, of Japanese students taking it every year. It's actually administered, let's see here, 4 times a year, and we're having Eiken testing coming up actually just next week in Japan. So good luck to all my students. And that's about it for me. Thank you for listening to my video. Hopefully it wasn't too long. Thanks. Bye-bye.